If you're watering with a standard hose and some attachments, you might be losing a lot of that water due to runoff. That's why drip irrigation has become so popular. It's much more precise and it's predictable, unlike the weather or maybe your gardening schedule. Eric Nelson runs Greenway Irrigation, which installed the system in this yard. He's also president of the New Jersey Irrigation Association. So an old-fashioned sprinkler could keep your lawn green, but they're not very effective. Eric, tell us what drip irrigation is and what are its advantages over the old-fashioned way.
Drip irrigation is another approach to in-ground lawn sprinkling. What it is, it's a low-pressure, low-flow type subsurface irrigation laid out in a grid pattern, offering water evenly to the plant root system.
And an irrigation system like this can be upgraded over the years. You've been working with this family for over 10 years, correct?
That's correct. This landscape has changed significantly over time with the additions and alterations, and we've accommodated a majority of this planting with drip irrigation.
Okay, and every time you start to set up a system, you start with a rough sketch and divide the yard into zones. Can you take us through each of the zones in this yard, starting with the one right down here?
Absolutely. Here we have drip irrigation installed for this planting area, as well as the remainder of this front lawn. It is installed approximately 12 to 18 inches apart in a grid-type pattern, direct root water feeding.
Do these pipes have to be underground?
They should be, based on damage control from human traffic or even animals.
Okay, and you have other types of irrigation in the various zones in the yard. Can you talk us through those one by one?
Absolutely. The remainder of the property is covered with rotary type sprinkler heads, overhead spray type heads, point source irrigation, micro spray irrigation, and finally, again, drip irrigation as well.
Now, micro spray also saves water, correct?
Absolutely. Again, this is a low volume, low pressure type zone, offering low watering, minimal overhead water loss, high conservation, and greater efficiency.
So this controller is essentially the brains of the operation, telling it when to sprinkle and when to shut off. It gathers information through a variety of sensors. This one's pretty sophisticated. Can you explain how this works?
This is a wireless sensor that reads current air temperature, solar radiation, and also rainfall. And it digests that information and sends it back to the control unit here, and auto-adjusts the controller to water more or less based on the current weather conditions.
And where would you put this guy?
That would go up on a gutter line or somewhere in full sun.
During the height of the season especially, you'll want to save water, and your area might even have some restrictions. So one tip is to run your system in the early morning, say between 3 and 6 a.m., when less water evaporates and more seeps into the soil. You can also set up your own form of drip irrigation if you have time and the right tools, and the solutions can be very simple. Tell us about this globe.
Well, here's a water globe that you fill with water. Once it's filled, you insert it in the ground near the base of a plant, and the water slowly leaks into the ground and provides water to the plant.
So it's really good for a potted plant. You can buy a really inexpensive kit online. We got this one from the drip store for about 50 bucks. Tell us how it works.
Well, this is a drip irrigation system where we're actually controlling the volume of water that we're applying in the garden. There's a valve here that moderates how much water flows through the main line.
And this goes right to your faucet?
Connects to the faucet.
Okay.
There's 100 feet of this black plastic hose. You snake it around your plants, stake it into the ground so it doesn't move, and then you come back, drill a small hole into the tube, and attach a feeder hose that will link to the plant.
In this yard, the homeowner set up his own system for less than $300, all with parts he got online. It runs around his property through all the various plantings in the front and along the back, and there are pressure valves every 18 inches along the tubing. There's a controller that allows for 3 different watering zones. Remember to plan it out like the pros. Areas that have different watering needs, like shrubs or vegetables, should have separate piping. You don't want to drown one area and leave another plant or tree thirsty.